I've got almost no notes for this one, so let's just see how it goes. So, Lenny Abrahamson, the guy who made one of my favorite movies of all time, Frank. He also made Room, which I'm pretty sure got an Oscar for something. Female lead, maybe? Anyway, now he's back with a movie I hadn't heard a peep about. I literally didn't know it was even coming out before it was already out, which is pretty odd considering it's made by someone whose movies I'm interested in, and stars Domhnall, Gleeson and Ruth Wilson, two actors I like. So how it wasn't even on my radar is a bit strange to me, but I guess that just means it's got zero marketing behind it, and no one's gonna see it. And yeah, having seen it now, I get why it might be a bit hard to market, because it's sort of a horror movie, but not really, but still kinda. And it's really slow too. And I'm not sure how I'm supposed to even summarize the story without giving away things that happen like an hour into the movie. Because yeah, it's a pretty slow story, and it takes a while to really figure out where it's going. But it's essentially about this doctor who goes to visit a patient in this big creepy old house. And of course strange things start to happen. And I think I'll leave it at that. Now I just watched 10 hours of The Haunting of Hill House, so I'm kinda burnt out on the whole big creepy old house thing. And in many ways this movie actually feels very much like that show, which is sorta unfortunate, because it does do its own thing. It's a lot smaller in scale, obviously, because it's just a 2-hour movie. But there's also only really two main characters, the doctor and the woman in the house. The story is told from the perspective of the doctor, but the woman plays a pretty significant role too. And there's her mother and her brother too, that are pretty important, but they're minor roles. But I gotta say, the brother, who is played by Will Poulter, and I've only seen him in things like We're the Millers and Maze Runner, and this is a very different kind of role. But turns out he can act his ass off, and that kinda surprised me, because before this, he was kinda categorized in my head as just generic actor guy. But no, he's actually a legit talented actor, and he goes all out in this one, as does Ruth Wilson. She's fantastic. Domhnall Gleeson though, kinda underwhelming to be honest. But to be fair, that's the character. He's sorta reserved and a little bit boring. And now that I think about it, this might have been a lot more interesting, told from the perspective of Ruth Wilson's character. A very different movie for sure, but she's such a dynamic and interesting character that I think it could have been great. But yeah, I still like this movie. It was good. Not great, but good. And it was pretty creepy too. And most of it is really subtle. There's not really any jump scares in this one. Well, there was at least one. But it was a sort of fake jump scare that kind of played on your expectation of a jump scare. But it really wasn't one at all. The way it was edited just made it seem like one. I thought that was pretty clever. And there's a lot of small details like that. And I think if I rewatched it, I could probably find a lot more. Because as I said, it's a pretty subtle movie. It ramps up a little bit near the end, but it's still mostly subtle. Nothing too crazy. Speaking of which, the end, I mean it worked, but I'm not sure if I missed something. It felt a bit ambiguous, like you could interpret it a few different ways. Or I might have just missed something, and it's actually pretty clear. I'm not sure, but it still worked for me. Now, would I recommend it? Well, it's a slow burn for sure. And it's not as good as Frank or Room. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out, so go watch it. Or don't. I'm not your dad.